Do you think Edward Snowden is eventually going to come back to the U.S.?
Well, yeah, I do think so. He certainly wants to someday. I don't think that the price for his act of conscience should be a long term as a convicted felon under special administrative measures, kept out of the public eye. This was a quintessentially political act. It's hard to find a reasonable person who doesn't at least grudgingly say this debate was necessary and would not have happened otherwise. The president's first defense of the programs was that they had been approved by all three branches of government, and that's true. But look at what those three branches of government have done since Ed Snowden brought the public into the conversation. They've all really radically changed course. And so what he did is revitalize democratic oversight in the United States. To me, it would be, a tragic irony if the person who helped, restore democratic oversight over secret programs is punished for that with a long prison term. I hope that that the situation will change so that he can come back to the country with dignity, in a reasonable way, and not just report for a long sentence.
And he is going to come here virtually on Monday at South by Southwest on this panel that you and Chris Sagoyan are going to be on with him. How did you guys choose South by Southwest for the first appearance?
And that's why, this is a way in which exile can be mitigated. He might not be able to be here with us in person, but his voice can be here. And so we did decide that it was time for him to start speaking a little bit more and sort of reintroducing himself. Certainly every U.S. TV network, and not just U.S., but every major TV network around the world has been, very aggressive in wanting to get the interview like this in the two chairs.
You get a lot of calls
in the hotel room. Yeah, quite a lot of calls. But I think that what was appealing about South by Southwest was that the interactive part is that it brings together a lot of people, a lot of young people who are passionate about technology, who really understand technology. And there have been sort of two different debates that have been going on since the Snowden revelations. I mean, there's the one that is primarily focused on law and policy. Are these programs constitutional? Will courts hear challenges to them? Should Congress reform these statutes? But there's a very different conversation that's been going on in the tech community, and it doesn't focus on the same things. It focuses on, the NSA's systematic weakening of encryption standards that we all rely on, for the privacy of our medical records, for the privacy of our banking transactions. It focuses on the NSA hacking into the back ends of data centers so they can suck out information. The technology community, particularly people who are worried about security, have been radicalized by these disclosures in a different way. They now see that they need to have a totally different threat model that includes the NSA as an adversary if they're going to protect their systems. Because, the NSA, in order to facilitate global mass surveillance, has essentially been manufacturing vulnerabilities and backdoors into a system that we all need. And, paradoxically, making our communications networks less safe in order to facilitate mass surveillance of innocent people. And so we were hoping that here we could have a, I would say, more elevated conversation about the technology side of this. There's been plenty of talk about Section 215 of the Patriot Act.
Right.
But what does the technology community need to know? How should the technology community respond to this information that continues to be published? Is it a lost cause or is it not a lost cause? Or are there things that we can do at the systems level, at the technology level, that will not require us to wait for dysfunctional legislatures to fix the system for us?
And to do it here at South by Southwest rather than something like DEF CON or a hacker conference, you did want to talk to people who are in industry, the kind of Googles and the Yahoos and the Facebooks that show up here.
Yes, and I also think that, candidly, this is an issue where there's a bit of a generational divide, even in how people view Ed Snowden, and certainly how they view, surveillance and mass surveillance. I think there's this misconception out there that the social media generation doesn't care about privacy at all. And in fact—
But hey, they're using Snapchat.
No, I mean, I think really the opposite is true, that if you look at public opinion polling on NSA surveillance, you'll see that the generational divide is a real threat to the deep state, to the people who just rely on massive budgets in order to fund programs that aren't necessary. And so this is I think a community that will welcome this chance to have a conversation with Edward Snowden. Look, he can still do the Oprah interview someday if that's what he wants to do. But we're not here to talk about his personal life, and we're not here to talk about what he does every day, and we're not here to talk about the kinds of things that any network TV journalist would have to ask. We're here to talk really about the issues, and it's really a call to arms.
And do you have any concerns about it jeopardizing his security to be in this public broadcast in a channel of some sort that could be tracked back to him?
It turns out that Ed Snowden is awfully good at security. This is one of those situations where I simply have to trust him to know what is secure and not secure, and also to know what level of risk he wants to take on. Remember, this isn't somebody who wants to dial his risk level to 0. If that's what he wanted to do, he'd be in Hawaii,
right,
not in Moscow. This is someone who wanted to launch a global debate and to be part of that conversation. It's going to involve some risk to do that. Whether it's a manageable risk, the right risk, is one where, at least on this, I don't get to play the lawyer.